Hello and welcome. I'm Rebecca Leary. I'm a certified yoga therapist and an oncology yoga teacher. This is yoga and meditation for pelvic floor health. The things you'll need for class include a yoga mat, a bolster or cushion, a folded blanket or a flat pillow, some yoga blocks, a chair, and a strap, a yoga strap. For that, if you don't have one, you can use the tie from your belt. You can use a long scarf or a towel. And if you don't have a yoga block, a little folded up towel will probably suffice for today's class. As we go through class, please respect your body and breath. If we're doing strengthening or stretching, work within your level of comfort. If something hurts, stop. Wait for another alternative, go back to something we did before, or rest until we move on to the next pose or sequence. You are responsible for your comfort and safety. You are in control. So, yoga for pelvic floor health. We all have a pelvic floor. And our different life experiences, maybe childbirth, maybe having a sedentary job where you sit too much, some weight gain, chronic constipation, and aging, all put pressure on our pelvic floor. And of course, pelvic cancers and many cancer treatments for different kinds of cancers can create pelvic floor dysfunction as well. The pelvic floor is important for a lot of things, but one of the most important is breath flow. Our diaphragm can't fully descend if the pelvic floor is rigid. So we need to make sure that we have the movement that we need in the pelvic floor. We are looking for balance, for flexibility, the ability to tighten the pelvic floor and to release it when that's necessary. Just so we know, the pelvic floor is that whole series of muscles at the very bottom of our torso, like a sling that holds all of our internal organs. And these muscles interdigitate, they go east to west, north to south. They even go in a figure eight around our various body parts below. And we need to have comfort with our awareness of that area, our ability to engage it when we need to, and to release it. Just a caveat, anyone who has pelvic floor dysfunction should see a pelvic floor physical therapy to get a proper diagnosis and specific treatment for whatever is ailing you. All right. So in a moment, I will guide us into our beginning postures. And I encourage you to, again, to take care of yourself. We are going to be working on the floor to begin with. And then we might come onto hands and knees, but if that's not comfortable, you can always be seated in a chair or lying on your back. And I will do my very best to cue all of those movements. Okay, so we're going to start supine, lying on our backs. Make sure that you have with you a yoga block, maybe your strap. Well, we may not need it now, maybe not until later. Okay, I'm going to move back. So take your time. I'll do my best to give you all the transitions between positions, but because we're all in very different places, it is up to you to make sure that you can move safely and carefully from place to place. I'll see you in the back. So coming here to the floor, block at the ready, I'm going to gently make my way on to my back. And we'll start here with, you can either have your knees bent or your legs extended, whatever is comfortable for you. And we will start here with a little bit of awareness and grounding. So if it's comfortable, you can allow your eyes to close or take a soft, unfocused gaze and begin to turn inward. First, we'll notice our connection to the earth. So in this position, can you feel your feet on the ground, your hips, your low back, your middle back and shoulder blades, the backs of your arms and your hands perhaps, and the back of your head? As you inhale, be aware of moving your body away from the earth beneath you into the space around you. And then as you exhale, see if you can let go just a little bit into the ground beneath you, allowing the floor, the earth beneath you to support you. Inhaling, we expand and open. And exhaling, we soften and let go. Take just a few breaths right here and see if you can be aware of letting go in your feet and legs, your hips, your low back, middle back. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears and down towards the ground. Let your arms be supported. Your hands can be on your body or down at your sides. Relax through your neck and throat, and you soften your jaw. Relax the muscles of your face, between your eyebrows, smoothing out your forehead, and softening the crown of the head. Allow your breath to just flow naturally, comfortably, for just a few repetitions. Being very aware of what comes up for you. What are you aware of? Is it thoughts and emotions or physical sensations, combination? And you feel the temperature of the room, the textures around you, maybe the feeling of your clothing against your skin. Throughout class, I'll be bringing our awareness back to these very present, very of the moment sensations as a way of staying grounded in the present moment. When you're ready, eyes can stay closed or you can gently blink them open. We're going to take our block or folded towel and bring it between our thighs. Knees are bent, feet and knees are about hip distance apart, and your feet are relatively close to your body. Bring your arms down at your sides, and we'll start by gently squeezing the block, and then releasing it without allowing it to drop. So a little bit of pressure. Squeeze a little tighter, and then gently release. And we'll do that several times. Squeezing, you can move at your own pace, and releasing. Squeezing and releasing. Now we're going to add a pelvic tilt. As you squeeze the block, I'd like you to press your low back down into the mat. And then as you gently release, I'd like you to drop your tailbone down towards the mat, recreating that lumbar curve. Exhale and press your back down. Gently squeeze the block. Inhale and stretch the front of your body, letting go a little bit. We'll do this a few times. Exhale, squeeze and press. Inhale, soften and tilt. Just a few more times. Then come into a neutral pelvis. We're still hugging the block, arms at our sides. Make sure there's no pillow underneath your head. We're going to do just a couple of little bridges. So gently squeezing the block, pressing into your feet and your arms and hands, going to just lift your hips a tiny bit off of the mat. Lift in your pelvic floor as you squeeze the block, and then gently release and soften. You do that just a few times. Squeezing and lifting. Pull up through the pelvic floor as you squeeze, and then softly release and come down. Maybe 2 more times. Squeeze and lift. Soften and release, coming down. And once more, last time, squeeze and lift and release. I'd like you to take your block, and if it's comfortable, bring it right onto your low abdomen. Just let it sit there. Depending on what kind of block you have, you may be more or less aware of having the block there. We're going to work on a breathing exercise that allows us to very gently stretch and contract the pelvic floor. This is full yoga breathing called Dirga breathing. And what we're going to do is on our first inhale, we're going to send the breath all the way down to the pelvic floor. Imagine that you could breathe all the way to your pelvic floor. And then as you exhale, you're going to gently squeeze the breath out from the pelvic floor, low belly, all the way up and out, releasing the breath. Inhale, let the breath come all the way down. Soften your pelvic floor to receive the full breath. As you exhale, very gentle squeeze, squeeze, releasing and letting the breath go. We'll do this several times, just working comfortably, right? Oh, I want you to feel the sensations without any kind of strain as you're trying to work through this breath. We'll do it a few times, full breath, softening the pelvic floor to receive the full breath. And then as you exhale, squeezing and lifting, releasing the breath. Take your time and work through just a few more of these Dirga breaths. And this, or the next time that you exhale, release your block to the side. Hands down at your sides. Once again, walk your feet out a little wider. You can bring your arms out at shoulder height, palms down, or come into goalpost or goddess breath. We're going to just gently windshield wiper our knees from side to side. Just let your hips move. They can lift and rock. And just notice a feeling of softening and release. You should feel this in your low back, maybe in your inner thighs, your pelvic floor, your thighs. Let's take a couple more gentle, gentle rocks from side to side. And this or the next time that you come through center, pause here. And then if it's comfortable, draw your knees, maybe one at a time, up towards your chest. Maybe you'll rock side to side and gently draw the knees in. Some people like to rotate and circle their knees. Some people like to, and make sure you do both ways. Some people like to rotate their legs separately, and again, both directions. Or just hug and breathe. Take just a couple of breaths here. And when you're ready, release your feet down to the mat And let's roll to one side. Now, we're going to come up to sitting. So, gently pressing into your hands, you can make your way all the way up to sitting. Bring the soles of your feet together and your knees apart. And notice right away if you're rocking back onto your tailbone. This is one of the positions, this sort of tucked pelvis, that contributes to our tightened pelvic floor, that doesn't allow for a full, strong excursion of breath and release. It leads to a tight and weak pelvic floor. So if that's your case and you're rocked back like this, get something. I'm going to grab my folded blanket that's right here. You might sit up on the edge of a pillow, just something to help lift your hips higher than your knees. And that will allow you to sit up a little taller on your sits bones. So I'm rocking from side to side. I can feel those bones at the bottom of my body pressing. And then I'm going to draw my knees towards my body comfortably. And if this is a lot for you, take some blocks. You can always support your legs with blocks. You can hold gently with your hands. But I encourage you to bring your hands to your knees, your shins, your ankles, or your feet. And once again, we'll just rock a little bit from side to side. Coming through center, holding gently. Let's inhale and lengthen the spine nice and long. Exhale, soften and let your knees come wide apart. Inhale, gently pull to help you lengthen, reach the crown of your head, lengthen your spine. And then as you exhale, soften in the hips and see if your knees can drop a little further apart, a little closer to the ground. And just a couple more breaths like this. Excellent. Softening and releasing. All right. I'm going to move the blanket now. I'm bring my legs out in front of me. Move the blanket off to the side. You may need it in just a moment. Bring your hands behind you. You can be on your fists or on your palms and walk your feet, bend your knees and walk your feet out wide towards the outer edges. I think you can see me well, of your mat. And we're going to come into the crow crawl. Many of you have done this with me. So you'll, once again, we'll windshield wiper our knees from side to side. We'll start right here. See what that feels like. And then see if you could take it a little further and let your knees drop. Make sure your feet are wide enough apart so that your knee can come down. And the other side. Now, if that feels okay, let your knees drop to one side. Release the other arm and gently reach around into a stretch. And moving to the other side. And if this feels good, drop your knees, plant your back hand, and lift your hips, reaching with your top arm. Bring them back down. These are all versions. These are options. So find one or a couple that you can work with and stay there for a couple of repetitions, moving side to side. And maybe once or twice more to each side. And then come through sitting. Now, we're going to have the option here of coming onto hands and knees, tabletop. Or if that is not an option for you, then I encourage you to go back onto your back. And I will come back to you in just a moment to instruct you how to get these postures from a different perspective without putting pressure on your knees. I'm going to use my blanket to protect my knees because As many of you know, I have some knee issues, so I'm going to work gently and see how I do. And then I'll join those of you who are lying supine and we'll work there. So choose your posture. If you're coming onto tabletop, make sure you have something underneath your knees. And you'll bring your hands down. And if that's not comfortable for your wrists, you can make fists with your thumbs pointing forward. And that gives you a straighter wrist. Or you can always come down onto your forearms, either right onto the mat or onto a block or two. So find your tabletop position. And if you're not working on hands and knees, then you'll come into that same supine position we just did with knees bent. All right, we're going to work with cat and cow. So as you inhale, I'd like you to lift your tail. Imagine that you have a tail. Stretch the front of your body. Open your heart and reach through the crown of your head. As you exhale, tuck your tail. Draw your abdominal muscles up and in, your abdomen lifts. Open between your shoulder blades and release your head and neck. Inhale, start with the pelvis, lift your tail, and then let it roll up the spine. Your head and neck are an extension of the spine. Again, as you exhale, start with the tucking of the tail, draw the belly in and up, release, and let go. And continue. If you're working in supine on your back, you'll work with that same pelvic tilt that we just did. You'll notice that it is very much the same movement as this cat and cow. Okay, and take a few more breaths. And then grab your blocks if you're working on hands and knees and bring them in front up on their highest height. We're going to step our right leg forward. You can help it along and bring it inside the blocks. If you're working on your back, draw your right knee towards your chest and lengthen your back leg. You'll just extend it out, your other leg. If you're up on hands and knees, stay right here and maybe rock a little bit forward and back and see what's comfortable. And then coming to stillness, stay right here or walk one or both hands to your knee. And then think about pressing your pelvis forward and maybe lifting one or both of your arms. Inhale and lift, stretch. If you're on your back, hug your knee, straighten the other leg, and then exhale. We all release and we'll switch sides. I'm bringing left knee forward or hugging left knee in. Press your hips gently forward and back, opening the front of your hip, the back of your leg. And then as you press forward, maybe one hand or both to your knee, and then maybe one or both arms come up. Open up, lots of breath. Stretching the front of that hip, stretching the back of your legs, your leg, one leg, and exhale and bring hands down. Okay, so let us all from here, we're going to make our way up to standing. So if you're on your back, roll to one side and press yourself up. If you're on hands and knees, you can use your blocks to step yourself up to standing. And we'll meet here. I'm going to move my blanket to the side. I need a sip of water. Maybe you do too. All right. So we're going to work now with some more alignment. So take your block or your folded towel, and you're going to place it between your shins. Now, for me, I like it on this sort of medium uh, height or width, I guess. Placing it, it's below my knees, there between my shins. And notice that my feet and legs are about hip distance apart. Bring your hands to the tops of your hips. And again, we're going to gently squeeze the block and then release it without letting it drop. I should have said this earlier, if you are using heavy blocks like cork or wood, be super careful that you don't drop the blocks onto your bare feet. That's why I like these foam blocks. Squeeze in and soften. Just a few more times to get that sensation. Excellent. Okay. Now, hands on your hips, feet planted on the floor. Let's gently rock forward and back. Very gentle. Don't want anyone to lose balance. We're just shifting between our heels and the balls of our feet. All at the same time that we're very gently hugging this block. And then we'll shift ever so slightly from side to side. And finding that place of balance in the center of all of these movements. Pressing down through your wonderfully grounded feet, I'd like you to gently hug in. Notice the engagement of your legs, your inner thighs, and see if you can lift your pelvic floor. From here, lift up through your low belly. Keep your pubic bone and your rib cage moving towards each other, right? So you don't splay your ribs wide open, right? Keep your belly engaged. Lift your heart and the crown of your head and reach down through your fingertips. This is our mountain pose, Tadasana. And it is a posture of strength and balance, alignment. Make sure you can breathe as you hold this posture for just a few moments. And then let's add some sun breaths. Inhale, float your arms out or up. Maybe your palms can meet. Exhale and draw your hands to heart center. We'll do that twice more. And last time. Pause here at heart center, eyes ahead of you. Take a moment to spot your drishti or focal point. It's something on your horizon line that isn't moving. For me, I'm looking at a bookcase with some beloved treasures, including the books. And so I'm going to fix my eyes gently on this card I have there that is a rainbow. So eyes there. And just settle into Tadasana for another breath or two. Release your hands and bring your block down between your feet. Go ahead and hug the block. It feels different here than it did when it was between the shins, but it's still similar engagement. And again, find your Tadasana, hugging in, lifting, lengthening. We're going to move into tree pose. Now, it's a balance pose, Rikshasana. Many times people are fine with just the block. You might need additional support, which you might take from a wall or having a chair or another piece of sturdy furniture nearby. So take a moment to get where you need to go, have the support you need. Come back to your Tadasana, eyes on your drishti or focal point. Your hands can be on your hips or at heart center. One hand on your heart, one hand on your support, whatever feels best to you. From here, I'd like you to shift your weight ever so slightly into your right leg. Now, I don't mirror when I'm teaching on video because we are all in different places. So listen, I will say and do the side that I'm working with. So you see how I've shifted my weight, but I'm not going way over to one side. I'm just shifting my weight so that it's over one leg. That frees up the other leg so I can lift my heel, bend my knee, and then turn my leg out right from the hip. Oops, got a cramp in my calf. And let my heel rest on the block. Now, this might be your tree pose. And from here, I'd like you to hug in towards center. Get that strength and groundedness. You can also choose to bring the ball of your foot onto the block or bring the sole of your foot to your calf or thigh, above or below your knee. Keep working to hug in towards center. Make sure breath is flowing. Keep all of that engagement of the pelvic floor, the low belly, lifting up. And then begin to imagine that you're drawing energy from the roots of your tree all the way up through the center of your trunk, out through the crown of your head into the branches of your tree. Maybe you have one branch or two branches. Keep the breath flowing. Come in and out as you need to. And see if you can find a moment of quiet, peace, stillness. And then one more breath. And with great control, come back through center and release. Okay, we're going to move to the other side. You might want to shift your position or shift your supports. And we start once again, let me take another sip of water. We start once again with that alignment that we learned, that Tadasana, hugging in mountain pose, finding that awareness of the midline of the body, the lift of the pelvic floor, the low belly, keeping this engaged, even as we lift the heart and the crown. Hands here or here, maybe here. And we shift into the left leg, keeping that hugging in to center. Release the right heel up, the knee bends. Turn out from the hip, resting your heel or bringing the ball of your foot to your block. Maybe your foot comes to the inner leg. Keep hugging in. Make sure your breath is flowing. Allow yourself to draw breath. Imagine it's coming from the roots of your tree all the way up through the core, through your trunk, all the way up and out. And find branches, a branch or branches. Let the breath flow. See if you can find a moment of stillness. And then big breath in, and with great control, come back to your starting position, and then release and shake out. All right, Beautiful job. We're going to work next with some forward folds. And I like to do this to a chair. I find it is very supportive for a lot of us. You can choose to work to blocks or to the floor or to a wall or something, a higher surface. So we're going to start with a slightly wider legged posture. Okay, so facing your chair seat or the wall or whatever you're going to use for your support. And like a broken record, I will say, hug in towards center, lift the pelvic floor, lift up and extend. Inhale, float your arms up or out. And we're going to come forward with a long spine. We do this by hinging at the hips. So we're not bending at our waist. We're hinging at the hips. So sending your bottom behind you, your spine is long. Begin to tilt forward. At a certain point, you may need to bend your knees in order to come down to your chair. Now, maybe your hands are here, maybe your forearms. And I'd like you to inhale and lengthen your spine by reaching your tailbone and your crown away from each other. As you exhale, see if you can soften and think about spreading your sits bones. Those are the bones at the bottom of your pelvis apart from each other, lengthening the pelvic floor, opening, stretching the pelvic floor. Lengthen the spine on your inhale, soften on your exhale. Maybe you can come a little further. Maybe you're here and you're working here with your forward fold. Wherever you are, take one more breath in, exhale, and then bending your knees a lot. Maybe you'll walk your hands to your knees or thighs. Inhale, come all the way up, long spine. You'll notice that I don't often do any deep rounding of the spine because people of a certain age and or people who are undergoing or have undergone cancer treatments can have bone density issues, and we don't want to create any risk for spinal fractures. So instead of doing that sort of curling, we move with a long spine. That helps to strengthen our back muscles and our stomach muscles, our core, and keeps us nice and safe. Okay, let's try this one more time. Wide-legged forward fold. Inhale and lift. Exhale, come forward, hands to your hips, your thighs, your chair seat. Think about bending your knees so that you can keep lengthening your spine as you come forward. Find a place where you can pause. Inhale, lengthen, stretching through the pelvic floor. Exhale, soften. Maybe you have more space. One more breath here. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, soften. And then to come up, hands to knees, to your chair seat. Walk yourself all the way up with a nice long spine, and then carefully walk your feet in. Okay, beautiful job. So now we've done lots of engaging of the pelvic floor. We've done some stretching and spreading in many different positions. So we work on awareness and flexibility, the ability to engage, the ability to release. Okay, for our next sequence, we're going to work with goddess pose and some warrior two. Now, if you've been taking class with me, you've done these postures. If this is brand new to you, then follow along to the best of your ability. And I'll do my very best to explain what we're doing. So take a nice, comfortably wide stance. Okay, just like we did with our wide forward fold. Now we're stepping out wide. From here, we're going to turn out both legs about 45 degrees, right? We're not out here. We're kind of in this 45-degree range. Now, the hips turn out, the knees, the feet. The knees and the feet should be pointing in the same direction, okay? From here, we inhale and lengthen our arms out at shoulder height, if that's comfortable, into five-pointed star. You know, this is one of my favorite poses. This is I am shining my light, I'm taking up my space. And in this pose, like in a few others we've already done, I want you to be aware that you're not lifting and releasing your abdominal muscles and splaying your ribs, right? Instead, we're going to make sure that legs are hugging, pelvic floor is lifted, low belly, keeping that integrity of the bottom of the rib cage and the pubic bone moving towards each other, even as we lift and open our hearts. Okay, release your arms because you've been there for a while. Shake them out. And then inhale, lift again, five-pointed star. Now we'll turn our arms over and bend at the elbows into goddess arms. Inhale here and then exhale and gently bend your knees. You can bend them a little, you can bend them a little more. And this is goddess pose. Inhale here, open the heart. Exhale, bring hands to heart center. Inhale in place. Exhale, see if you can drop a little further down. And then inhale, lengthen through the legs, the arms, and release down. Okay, I can feel I need to move my hips a little bit from side to side. And then we'll go back into our goddess pose. Through five-pointed star, arms over, bending knees and elbows, goddess pose. Nice stretch in the inner thighs, strengthening in the core. Inhale, open your heart. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale in place. Exhale, soften. Maybe you come down a little further and lengthen and release. Beautiful job. Now, turn your right toes to face forward and turn your left toes out a little further so that they're pointing to the side. Then take your right leg and turn it in just a little more. So your toes are pointing, instead of here, they're going to point that way. Inhale those arms, shoulder height, and then exhale and gently bend that front leg, left in this case, just until it's over your ankle, pointing over your middle toes. This is warrior two. And you may turn your head and look over your left front fingertips. Inhale here and then exhale. Try to press your feet down and hug them towards each other. Lift the pelvic floor, the low belly. You know the story by now. Big inhale here. And then release your arms, lengthen your legs, and turn all your toes to face forward. We're going to go to the other side. Turn out toward, in my case, the window. Turn in the back leg, 45 degrees. Inhale the arms to shoulder height and then bend into the front leg. Now, sometimes people think it's a lunge. It's not. It's more of a half plie if you have done any dance. So in other words, we keep our torso up and down and just the knee is bending. Turn, look over your front fingertips, press down through your feet, hug them in, lift your pelvic floor, and then release and come back through center. Carefully walk your feet back in about medium distance, and let's take a gentle Tai Chi twist. Beautiful work in these standing poses. And let that release. And we'll do a little bit of seated work and then we'll go back down. So go ahead and make your way down to a seat. It's interesting, it's a very gray and cloudy day here, rainy day, and yet I am dry. Okay, I'm going to sit on my cushion because for me that'll be most comfortable. You may want to sit on a cushion or sit on your folded blanket. And I'm going to work with a gentle seated twist. So from here, I'm going to bend my right knee and bring my foot to stand. So my left leg is bent and lying down on the ground. Again, if sitting on the floor is not for you, sit in a chair and you can do this gentle twist from there. We're going to hold on to this raised knee and start by drawing ourselves up nice and tall. So I'm hugging in, lifting up. You might stay right here, or you might bring your right hand behind you, holding on with the left, and come into a twist. Stay for a breath. Inhale and lengthen through your spine. Exhale and twist towards that up knee. Release and come through center, and we'll switch sides. If you're seated in a chair, you can just take a gentle twist by bringing one hand to the opposite knee and the other arm behind you or around. If you're working here on a cushion, hold on to that left leg. Draw yourself up nice and tall. You might stay here, or you might have a little more space to come around into a twist. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and twist a little further. Coming back through center, extend your legs out in front of you, and just a little release. Windshield wipers of various types, little tiny bounces. We're going to move down to the floor once again. I'd like you to have at least one block and your yoga strap handy. And again, if you don't have a strap, you can use anything that will lengthen your arms. You can use those exercise bands. You can use the strap from your robe, something like that. So I have this. This is my strap. And I love this one because it has these little handholds. So I have arthritis in my hands and it makes it easier rather than trying to grip it. I can slide my hand through. So ask me if you want to find out how to get one of these. All right. Have your props nearby and carefully make your way on to your back. Once again, take a moment. You may bend your knees and rock your hips from side to side. You might want to draw your knees in and rock. What do you need to do to be placed once again here on the floor? We're going to start together with knees bent, feet on the floor. Take a hold of your strap. Make sure you have some room on either side of you, which I'm telling myself because I never have enough room here. We're going to lasso the ball or the arch of the right leg and hold our strap on either side, like one hand on each side. And using the strap, allow your leg to come up. You can keep a soft bend in your knee but we're looking to get a little bit or maybe a lot of stretch in the back of the leg. So you might stay right here, or you might try bending your knee and then lengthening the back of the leg just a couple of times. Keep pressing down with your standing leg, the one that's down on the floor, and try to keep your knee pointing up towards the ceiling as you work. You're finding some stretch in the back of the right leg, but use the strap to help you modulate. So if you're here, wonderful. If you're somewhere else, we are all in different places. As long as you're feeling a comfortable stretch in the back of your leg, you are perfectly in the pose. From here, always with a little gentle bend in your knee, we're going to bring both ends of the strap into your right hand. Okay, you can be wrapping around it or holding onto it. And then bring your left hand to your left hip, the hip point, because we're going to use that to remind us to keep the hip down. From here, use the strap to help you extend your leg out to the side. Can you see that? I have my knee bent and my leg is going into an external rotation so that I'm stretching the inside of my leg, and a little stretch in my hip, and certainly a stretch in the groin and the pelvic floor. And I'm going to come to a place where I can hold comfortably using the strap to modulate. I actually have the wall here too, which is helping me modulate. And take a couple of breaths. Make sure that you're keeping your back nice and flat against the mat. So don't let your back arch as you're here. And then using the straps and your muscles, draw the leg back up, switch hands, and this time we're just going to bring the leg across the midline, right? So your right hip is not going to lift off of the mat. You're just getting a stretch here in your outer hip, maybe your outer thigh. And we'll take just a couple of breaths here. And then draw the leg back to center. Bend your knee and bring your right ankle to cross above your left knee. So you're coming into a cross-legged position, a figure 4 stretch. You can stay right here. For some people, this is quite intense. If you'd like, you can place your right hand gently on your right thigh just to give a little bit of support. If you have more space, you could think about drawing your knees towards you, reaching your hands through and around, and grasping your thigh or your shin, whatever you can comfortably reach. Maybe rocking a little bit. Find a comfortable way to stretch in this figure 4 position. And we'll take just a couple of breaths. And then when you're ready, slowly release your legs down to the ground. You might roll your hips from side to side. You might draw your knees in. And we'll prepare for the other side. So left knee is drawn in, the right foot is on the mat. You're going to lasso that foot, ball or arch, and with a little bend in the knee, using our straps for support, we'll extend the leg. You can hold here or try bending and lengthening to find a little more space, but please, again, work slowly and in a place of comfort, right? A stretch might be an intense sensation, but that doesn't mean it's a painful sensation, right? So work within a non-painful place. And then when you're ready, soften in your knee, let your leg come to a comfortable place. Bring the straps into your left hand, your right hand to your right hip and hip point, and then very slowly and with control, allow that left leg to open out to the side. Keep your right hip, your right shoulder planted firmly. Use the strap to modulate the stretch. Breathing in, breathing out. Hold here for several breaths or until you're ready to draw the leg back up and bring it gently across the midline. Again, this hip stays down. We're just getting a gentle stretch. Maybe it might be more intense for some of us, it might be less for others. And we'll just take a couple of breaths here, working in your comfort. When you're ready, let your knee bend. Use the strap to help you bring your left ankle above your right knee. Release the strap and decide how much intensity you want to work with. What feels good to you in this moment? Taking several breaths wherever you're choosing to work. And when you're ready, release your feet down. Let's finish. I'm going to recenter myself here. Let's finish with just a little bit of bridge pose with our block between the thighs. So block between your legs, your feet near your body, feet and knees about hip distance apart. If you're lifting your hips, make sure there's nothing underneath your head because we don't want to strain the neck. Arms down at your sides, palms down. Start by gently squeezing the block and then maybe lifting your hips. Release hips down, gently release the squeeze without dropping the block. And a couple more like that. Gentle squeeze and lift. You might stay for a breath, hugging in, gentle lift. And then come all the way back down. Take your time working just a few more times here. Just a reminder of that sensation of drawing in, lifting pelvic floor, lifting the hips. And when your bridging practice feels complete, release your hips down, remove the block, and draw your knees in, maybe rocking. And this is the moment in every class where I suggest to you that you finish your practice with any pose or poses that your body is calling for. Maybe you want to feel more of an extension in the front of your hips. So maybe you'll draw one knee in and lengthen the other one. Maybe you're looking for a happy baby pose or half of a happy baby pose. Maybe you're ready to move into your Shavasana. So take the next several breaths to complete your practice and to move towards Shavasana. And for Shavasana, we'll lie down comfortably. Maybe you'll bring some cushions or blocks underneath your knees, maybe a pillow under your head, maybe a blanket over you. And as you begin to arrive in Shavasana, Take a moment of gratitude that you have completed, you've shown up and you've completed your yoga practice for today. Take a moment to notice what is apparent to you. Not necessarily, what's different from when you started, but you could do that as well. But also just what is happening now? What is available in your awareness? And then, if you're ready, allow your eyes to close if they're open. And with each exhale, see if you can let go just a little bit more. Gentle, soft inhales to expand the inner body, expand into the space around you. And soft and comfortable exhales to just melt into the supports beneath you. Softening through your feet and ankles, your lower legs, your knees, your upper legs, your thighs, inner thighs, outer thighs, your hips. Make sure your pelvic floor is softening. Soften your low belly and your low back. Allow the breath to move smoothly into the middle body, softening through your ribs. Let your heart be open, your shoulder blades soft, a little space between them. Allow your shoulders to drop away from your ears and soften and support your arms and hands. Soften through your neck, your jaw, and the muscles of your face, around your eyes and between your eyebrows. Smoothing out your forehead and softening the crown of the head. We'll come into a little bit of quiet, and I invite you to release, relax, and just let go. Begin to deepen your breath. Bringing small movements into fingers and toes, hands and feet and arms and legs. When you're ready, roll to one side and pause. And then slowly pressing into your hands, begin to bring yourself up to sitting, allowing your attention to stay deeply inward for another moment or two. We'll seal our practice with one chant of Om for the community we create when we practice together. If you'd like to join, bringing hands together at heart center, we'll inhale. Om. Om Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Jai Bhagwan. May the light in each of us be victorious. Thank you so much for practicing today.